Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're actually doing a supercharger test. I haven't tested out the Marietta, Georgia supercharger. It's a new supercharger that's actually a V3. Hadn't tried it out, so I thought I'd try it today because I'm going to be driving through Atlanta and it's going to be about 110 miles round trip. Now, of course, we are in the standard range Model 3, which gets 200 and, in my case, 20 miles on a full charge. So I definitely don't need to stop at the supercharger, but I thought I'd check it out and see what it's like. Hadn't tried a V3 supercharger, so actually in the Model 3, it's not going to be the standard range. It's not actually going to give me any more than 170 kilowatts, I believe. But we'll check it out and see what it gives us as far as the charge on that, just to try it out real quick, just for kicks. Even though, like I said, won't need to charge there, but I wanted to try it out. And then I'll also see how the drive goes, give you an update on how self-driving, or I should say Autopilot, is doing these days. Still don't have that FSD beta, and it's now looking like it's going to be May or June. So I'm not keeping my hopes up for May. Probably won't be anytime soon. So for now, I'm just going to see how Autopilot is doing with the latest update. We are on 2021.4.15, so I believe that is the latest software available. So I will check out and see how Autopilot does. It has been on quite a while since I've used Autopilot through Atlanta and gotten a good test of that, so it'll be interesting to see how that is. So I'll check back in a few with the Autopilot update, as well as the supercharger, V3 supercharger in Marietta, to see how that is. So we made it to the supercharger and have 62% battery, so definitely don't need a charge, but it says we are, well, let's see, it's going to slow down. Let me set the limit to 90. Set it to 90% instead of 70%, so it can just go as fast as it normally would. Right now it's only going 46 kilowatts. That's very slow, but it's well over 50% charge, so it's definitely going to be a slower charge than it needed to be. Started out with 70% down to 63%, and we're just going to get a charge real quick here. One note on the charging cable, it was a little bit thinner than the V2 supercharging cable, so it's actually a thinner cable, which is interesting. I'd always heard that, but I hadn't seen the cable. It is actually noticeably thinner and lighter than the V2 cables, which is odd because at a V3 supercharger you actually get more power, and that's not very well displayed by the fact that I'm only getting 43 kilowatts. So I'm not really sure what's going on with this. I noticed that the guy next to us actually just moved his car from one station to the other, so maybe there's actually a noticeable slow charge at this one. I'm not really sure. So far, not really that impressed with this V3 supercharger. It is very new, so maybe there's some trouble with it. Let me check on some of the reviews of it and see what they say, see if other people have had similar problems with it. So I checked a few of the reviews on the supercharger, and other people did note that some of the chargers seem to not give very quick charge, and they mentioned even a 35 kilowatt charging speed, so that is interesting. I think not a very good test in this situation because, like I said, I was over 60% battery, and in fact already over, just by sitting here about 5 minutes, I'm already over the 70% state of charge that I started at when I left the house about 15 miles ago. So I tried 2 different stalls, and both of them with the same results, around 35 kilowatts. So not that impressive for a V3 supercharger. I'm not really sure what was going on with that. Again, I did start with a higher state of charge, so that was maybe to be expected that I wasn't going to get super high rate, but I definitely would have thought over 100, at least for a little bit, before it got up to 75% or something like that. I definitely thought I was going to get higher than 35. So maybe I'll check it on the way back, see if I have time to see what the speed is there when I have a lower state of charge starting out. I still won't really need a charge, but if I have time, I might check it out. I tried 2 different stalls and no luck. I will say that it is in a pretty nice location here, so pretty close to the new Braves Truist Park. So that is nice, and there's a lot of stuff around here. There's well, Subway, not my favorite, but there is a Subway, and there's a couple other restaurants I think down the ways here in this shopping center. So definitely some places that you would be able to go if you're going to park your car and get a decent charge. And even at 35 kilowatts, it wouldn't take too long to get a decent amount of charge, although again with the V3 you definitely would expect better. So far that's my impressions of this supercharger. As far as Autopilot and how it did on the way here, it was rock solid on the interstate. It did still sort of dip into the on ramps a little bit, so that was not great, but not a huge deal. It doesn't, obviously didn't have to disengage or anything like that. It just kind of moves over a little bit into the on ramps and then comes back into the lane as the lane narrows back in. And I did have to actually disengage one time because a truck was coming over and I wanted to make sure that I gave them room, although I'm not really sure what Autopilot would have done in the case of me just letting it do its thing. I'm guessing it would have probably slammed on the brakes probably abruptly as that truck, if he decided to be aggressive enough to come over, because we were just like kind of right at the back of his vehicle. So he definitely was he was coming over one way or the other. I went ahead and just tapped on the brake and let him come over, rather than seeing what Autopilot would have done in that situation. So overall, it's been pretty good. I will give another update if I do stop at the supercharger on the way back. And overall, I've been impressed with the drive, and I'll give one last update with Autopilot after the complete drive to see how that was. So I made it back, and traffic was a lot worse than I was hoping for, and so I did not have a chance to get stopped at that supercharger again. Didn't need it. Ended up with around 30% charge at the end of the trip, so it wasn't a big deal. But I will say that Autopilot was excellent, and is definitely the #1 reason to own a Tesla is Autopilot. It is great for the commute. It had been so long since I had actually had a commute, so I had forgotten about how much I love Autopilot, but it just makes the drive so much easier, especially in that stop and go traffic, which there was a ton of on the way home, of course. So definitely definitely a great thing about Teslas. And there's a lot of cars out there that have the dynamic radar cruise control, which I will never buy a car without it, which I probably won't ever buy a car that's not a Tesla again, so don't have to worry about that. But even if I did buy a car that was not a Tesla, I would definitely recommend that it be one with a dynamic radar cruise control. And lane keep assist is a minimum, but honestly you really want it actually to steer within the lane. So that's what Autopilot does. It actually stays in the middle of the lane, rather than just bouncing in between the lanes. It will actually steer the car in the middle of the lane. Now I know that there's probably Mercedes has that or something like that, and maybe Lexus, BMW, they have those, and I know Nissan actually has that with their ProPilot. So definitely I would recommend checking out those if you're going to look for a vehicle with that. Is definitely worth it if you happen to be on commutes or road trips and things like that on the interstate. It is great for peace of mind, and it actually just takes a lot of stress out of the driving. So with that, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more, and we will see you on the next one.